Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. The aura alone dissipated by the deep abyss that Ice Cliff Fortress was dragged into was enough to instill fear within Luo Feng. This ancient civilization, that has been dead for umpteen reincarnation eras, truly has very impressive methods. It is, indeed, a civilization worthy of creating the universe boat. Just Du and Dong River's remodeling of the boat of Mausoleum alone was able to make the boat of Mausoleum so terrifying. Over 200 great beings in the hall were listening intently. They wanted to listen to the voices from within the Ice Cliff Fortress, to judge what the fate of the Pulse of Divine Eye clan would be. After all, that is a supreme true treasure palace. It would be difficult to die in there. Haven't you heard? In Du and Dong River's hometown, that ancient civilization does not have such a thing known as a supreme true treasure. The writings found on countless true treasures belong to that civilization, so obviously, those countless true treasures were left behind by that ancient civilization. Since Du and Dong River dared to say so, then I'm afraid he really is certain about it. No such thing known as a supreme true treasure. What do you mean? Several great beings could not help discussing discreetly. Similarly, countless thoughts were surging in Luo Feng's mind. Right? That ancient civilization was incomparably powerful, and had many beings who were more powerful than universe supreme masters. Even the ancestors of the two holy lands might not be a match for the pinnacle existences of that ancient civilization. With such a high field of vision, their way of viewing weapons would naturally be different. Based on his own experience within the space of the wings and various other adventures while roaming about for all these years, he had come to know that supreme true treasures were also different in terms of strength. Some were strong, the others were weak. In the eyes of the weaker ones, they were unable to unleash the ultimate power of supreme true treasures, so naturally, they were not able to judge which was strong and which was weak. However, to the ancestor of the Holy Lands, to Du and Dong River, in the hands of a more terrifying existence, the ability to judge the strength of those true treasures came easily. Therefore, there was no such thing as a true treasure known to that ancient civilization. As for the so-called supreme true treasures, the ancient civilization had a clearer way to differentiate them. It was just that differentiation method was of little significance to him. Because in the current era, the most powerful beings were the universe supreme masters. As for the ancestors of the two holy lands, they had never stepped out of their holy land universes before. The groups of powers from the outside world were all suspicious of whether these two ancestors were still alive or not. Shawu Wings was actually composed of 6 pairs of wings. Luo Feng nodded silently. According to the snippets of memories from the spirit of the wings, there must have been 2 super great beings exchanging blows, and that caused Shawu Wings to become damaged. For such an incredible true treasure, as Shawu Wings could be reduced to such a state, how terrifying could these 2 super great beings be? The most likely guess would be great beings from an ancient civilization. Upon comparison with the ancient civilization, after endless reincarnation eras, the deterioration of power was obviously severe. It would be so inferior that it might be rendered incomparable to that civilization. Just as Luo Feng was thinking about that ancient civilization, imagining how impressive it was, speculating why it disappeared with the passing of time. The ground within the hall split apart again, and at the spot where it split, a terrifying aura was exuded. 3 streaks of light flew out, and then suspended right before Thundercoat Devil God. These 3 items were, namely, a fist-sized ice jade sculpture of Ice Cliff Fortress, a strange-looking beast statue, and a dazzling tricolor pearl. These 3 treasures, said Du and Dong River. Based on your method of categorization, 2 are supreme true treasures, and the remaining 1 is more unique. It may not be as powerful as a supreme true treasure, but I find it quite suitable for you. Du and Dong River looked down and smiled. Thundercoat, do accept it. Thundercoat, Devil God looked blankly at the 3 treasures before him. His eyes reflected complicated emotions. These 3 treasures. Ice Cliff Fortress. Isn't that true, God Sector? Phantom Heart Pearl. The 200+ great beings, especially the 5 universe supreme masters, could tell at first glance. Jealousy arose within them all, but the next moment, there was an uproar among them. Ah, these 3 treasures. Could it be the pulse of the divine I clan has been annihilated? 2nd and 7th true masters are both within the ice cliff fortress. Could it be they both have died? Those universe masters who are able to self-destruct early enough can rely on their ability to divide their bodies and increase their chances of survival. But 2nd true master and 7th true master do not have other divided bodies. They could not escape even if they wanted to. These 2 universe supreme masters have their own supreme true treasures with them. How could they have been killed so easily? 2. This is simply. That ancient civilization is simply terrifying. Over 200 great beings were smacking their tongues disdainfully. To the great beings, a supreme true treasure palace was an absolute safe place unless one was so reckless as to charge into another miniature universe, try enter a core ground, or tired of living to foolishly try to break through a reincarnation era, or doing things that were out of the norm. If not any of these, then it would be impossible to bypass the protection of the supreme true treasure palace to annihilate the existence living within it. Field of vision. Based on Duandong River's field of vision, of course he would know that there was no such thing like an absolutely invincible true treasure. In his eyes, Ice Cliff Fortress. He speedily came to a verdict for the strengths and weaknesses of Ice Cliff Fortress. Over 200 great beings in the hall were surprised and envious. After all, they were talking about 2 true treasures and an illusion heart pearl, whereby illusion heart pearl was a unique treasure suitably used for executing illusionary attacks. Also, it had the function of guarding one's soul, and was an extremely powerful treasure useful for soul-related areas. Thundercoat, Devil God, was a born natural in the execution of illusions. Thus, he was a suitable choice to entrust this treasure to. Illusion Heart Pearl will easily recognize you as its master. Duandong River looked down and said, as for the remaining 2 supreme true treasures, if your willpower is strong enough, you can also get Ice Cliff Fortress to recognize you as its master. True God Sector is the only difficult one. Getting it to recognize someone as its master is extremely difficult. You need to go back and ponder deeply. Spend some time with it. Perhaps you may still succeed. Thundercoat, Devil God nodded with great excitement. He was not one to waste time either. On the spot, he quickly got to the task of the recognition of a master. The process of getting Illusion Heart Pearl, an Ice Cliff Fortress, to recognize him as their master was accomplished in one swift move. Ha ha. I may have various pinnacle true treasures, but the only one that is truly unique is Thundercoat. Thundercoat, Devil Master sighed. Always being close to fighting and killing, but my skill of illusions never did have a good treasure to complement it. Now, with Illusion Heart Pearl, my means of attack are much stronger. Furthermore, with Ice Cliff Fortress as protection, the Divine Eye Clan. Thundercoat Master's 9 pairs of eyes were twinkling, but with a murderous shine. This evoked sighs from the other 200-odd great beings. The poor Divine Eye Clan. With this great boost in power, would Thundercoat, Devil God let them off easily the moment he got out? Thank you, Lord Duandong River. Thundercoat, Devil God was so filled with gratitude that he gave a deep bow. We are done here. From where he sat high up in his throne, Duandong River gave a slight nod. You may also take your leave. As for the other candidates, Duandong River swept his gaze the other 200-odd great beings. Getting in contact with the inheritance is going to commence right away. Once you get into contact with the inheritance, those who failed must die, and to die means the annihilation of the soul. You various bodies will all perish. All of my pulse must have a soul to be able to start cultivation, so I have chosen only those of you with souls. So, naturally, I have my means of dealing with souls. Over 200 great beings were present, but every single one was in for a shock. Yes. Indeed, the Magicube instrument had been the key. Rock Giant Master, the Skeleton Clan, and a few other life forms had been eliminated because they were soulless. As for the other rock life forms, plant life forms who were able to enter thereafter, were unique and all had souls. Only Milky Way and blue blood made it past the third bottleneck, Duandong River said coldly, looking down. The two of them are the most hopeful ones. And the four who managed to break through the second bottleneck. You all also have a trace of hope. As for those who made it past the first bottleneck, unless you display an outburst of potential within a short period of time, you will only be here to make up the numbers. Now, he continued. Thundercoat and the other 5 Universe Supreme Masters. I will send them off. If any of you here decide to give up, you should quickly make your choice now. This is your last chance. Duandong River's voice resonated about the entire hall. The entire hall was in dead silence. From the very beginning, Duandong River had given the candidates many chances to give up and back out. So long as they did not get into contact with the inheritance, there was always some leeway, yet if they got in contact with it, that would change. Which was why this was their last chance for survival. Even 2nd True Master and 7th True Master, who had hidden in Ice Cliff Fortress, were annihilated. Who else would dare to entertain thoughts of being fortunate enough to escape death? I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Quickly, great beings started standing up, one after another, to volunteer their retreat. Pengong, master of the human race from the primal universe, who had managed to pass the first bottleneck, another universe knight, and an undying godly soul all chose to back out of the competition. Both of you will retreat, Huge Axe Creator instructed from the virtual universe. Being able to make it through the first bottleneck, you have already proven that you have extraordinary potential. Going on to vie for the inheritance would only mean courting death. Our race has Luo Feng here. It will be pointless for both of you to go. Pengong, you are one of the great beings supporting our race. There is no need for you to meet your end this way. Understood. You shall back out. As for other great beings from our race, let them try for a breakthrough. Remember, bring as many true treasures back as you can. A loss of so many true treasures will be a great blow to our race. Understood. Other great beings from our holy land will all try to break through the bottlenecks. You must gather enough information about the inheritance. You shall back out, too, and bring the supreme true treasure back. Understood. Various groups of powers were making speedy arrangements. Due to various reasons, be it to bring back their true treasures, or because the leaders were unwilling to see a certain great being from their clan becoming ashes and dust, regardless of whatever reason, the number of retreating figures in that hall was soaring. A short moment later, in that faintly hazy hall within the boat of Mausoleum, the number of great beings who decided to stay and continue to keep in contact with the inheritance dropped to 236. The others had decided to leave. All of you quickly leave. Duandong River pointed far away. Hong. Long. The floodgate of the corridor opened. Exit through the same route you came in by. Duandong River shouted. 6 Universe Supreme Masters, including Thundercoat, several Universe Masters, and a small number of Universe Knights, and undying godly souls speedily flew through the corridor, and quickly disappeared in the distance. The floodgate was lowered to shut the place off again. The remaining 236 great beings in the hall were all resolute. Even if we die, we must send some information back. Luo Feng looked around, secretly in deep respect for out of the remaining 236. It was fated for 235 to be annihilated. Only he, Luo Feng, and Blue Blood Knight had the highest hope of survival. The other great beings were there to take a risk, especially those who merely passed the first bottleneck. It was almost as though they were there to meet doomsday. Every clan could rise and establish its footing in its own reincarnation era. This was because the great beings of that clan were willing to stand out at the 0 hour. In fact, all great beings had made their way up from the bottom, and had encountered countless life and death situations. They had long since looked upon death lightly and expressed more interest in whether their deaths were worthy or worthless. For their clan to be able to transcend reincarnations to attain eternal existence, dying would be worth the price. All of you here are on the path of no return. Duandong River stood up. It is fate's calling that only one of you will receive the inheritance from the pulse of Duandong River. Follow me. Duandong River turned back to look at the throne. The throne and stone wall behind it suddenly split apart to reveal a vast and spacious individual space, where there were endless splashing sounds of waterfalls. The fragrance of flowers wafted through the air. There was even the faint chirping of birds and the loud roars of beasts. This is the space of inheritance of the pulse of my Duandong River. There was a remote quality to Duandong River's eyes, and he slowly said, almost every generation of great beings was here in this space to receive the inheritance. It was just the same for me. At the gate of Boat of Mausoleum, great beings like North True Star Master from Eastern Emperor Holy Land heard a cold voice, when seeing candidates like Thundercoat Devil God, and Tai Bu Demon Master quit. All of you, get out of Boat of Mausoleum now. The gate is closing. If you don't, you won't have the chance anymore. The gate is closing. Only one who's exposed to the inheritance can survive, and he'll be the next Duandong River. Others will all have to die. Go. North True Star Master and other great beings all started to fly out of the gate. They made it just before it closed. Everyone sighed when they looked back at the gate. I really admire you, Thundercoat Devil God. I can't believe you were the one who planned this inheritance, and you made the Divine Eye Clan suffer such a huge loss. The Divine Eye Clan must hate your guts now. The great beings all watched Thundercoat Devil God, but none of them were hostile toward him. For one thing, he was the reason they had discovered the inheritance of Duandong River. For another, Thundercoat Devil God had only made the Divine Eye Clan suffer a loss. In a way, he had just helped them eliminate a huge enemy. Besides, Thundercoat Devil God owned Ice Cliff Fortress now, so it was almost impossible to kill him. With True God Sector, he would be one of the toughest Universe Supreme Masters in Universe Ocean. Besides, he was a lone Universe Supreme Master, so lots of powers would long to befriend him. I want them to hate me, Thundercoat Devil God snorted. The more they hate me, the better. I was already a Universe Supreme Master, yet I was still humiliated by the Divine Eye Clan, and my best friend Kong Luo was killed by them. I don't belong to a particular race, and I don't ask for anything else. I only want the Divine Eye Clan to regret what they did, and I want them all to die. All the great beings were dazed. The poor Divine Eye Clan. His hostility toward them was so strong. Sorcerer Sprite Master reported it to the avatars of the 5 remaining True Masters. True Masters, Ice Cliff Fortress was drawn in the abyss, and second True Master asked those who had multiple bodies to self-destruct to survive. Which is why everyone with multiple bodies blew themselves up and escaped death. The survivors all described what they saw. That abyss contains unbelievable power, and there must be techniques like illusions. Second and the 7th True Master couldn't withstand it. The 5 True Masters couldn't look more upset. They'd already known what had happened. This was the greatest chance for the Divine Eye Clan to transcend incarnations, yet that Thundercoat Devil God showed up, and not only took away their opportunity, but also killed the 2nd and 7th True Master. 2 Universe Supreme Masters, and 2 important True Treasures. The 7 True Masters had a combined technique before. However, after the deaths of 2 of them, their power tumbled. Damn it. 6th True Master looked belligerent. Thundercoat Devil God, Goddamn Thundercoat Devil God. You dared to destroy our hope. We should have killed you. 5th True Master roared. Who could have expected him to be lucky enough to find that Boat of Mausoleum first, said 3rd True Master. A mediocre Universe Supreme Master, who has no supreme true treasures. And he didn't avenge himself after what happened. He's just lucky. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. Damn it. He destroyed our biggest chance, and he killed the 7th and 2nd. 2nd and 7th brother, 1st True Master whispered, looking agonized. If we can't transcend incarnations, we need to at least die with that Thundercoat Devil Master, said 5th True Master furiously. Calm down. 1st True Master opened his eyes and shook his head. That shouldn't be our concern. We're approaching our true death, so we need to fight for a chance to survive. If we can't transcend incarnation, our glory will go away forever, and nobody will remember who we are after a couple of universe eras. As the Divine Eye clan was grieving, Eastern Emperor Holy Land and the human race from the original universe had their hopes kindled anew. The ancient ancestor from Eastern Emperor Holy Land was talking with Blue Blood Knight and Yuzon Master. Apparently, this ancestor had high expectations for the two of them. Huge Axe Creator and Primal Chaos City Leader were talking with Luo Feng, while Purple Moon Ancestor was talking with Dear Bugmaster. All the powers looked forward to it, and the burden was borne by those candidates. They had already decided to be exposed to inheritance, which was a path of extremis. Those who bore the best chance were Luo Feng and Blue Blood Knight, and the others would almost certainly die. What they needed was to pass some information back to their race before they died. Huge Axe Creator looked at Luo Feng. It's very difficult to transcend incarnations. Even Teacher Origin couldn't guarantee success. I'm still weaker than Teacher Origin, so I'm still far from incarnation transcendence. There are only 2 holy lands after all those universe eras, so you can imagine how difficult it is to transcend incarnations. Even though I'm very confident in myself, I can't guarantee success in 3 universe eras. However, this is the best chance that we humans have, and you're the top candidate. We humans used to be weak, but under the lead of Teacher Origin, we started to rise and became a pinnacle race among the original universe. We've been through countless wars with other races, and several times, we almost went extinct. Now, we humans are powerful, so countless human descendants can play in the virtual universe without concerns. And we have abundant resources to train ourselves, making many races our subsidiaries. We are the strongest race. We have the most powerful hearts. We're not willing to submit to others. Which is why we won't just wither away. Huge Axe Creator gazed at Luo Feng. What we want is to exist forever and to become even more powerful than the 2 holy lands, rivaling that ancient civilization and creating a better civilization. This is a great chance. Every great being has a turning point before he rises, and the same rules apply to a race. This opportunity you have is a critical turning point, and we're at a crossroads now. Our fate depends on you. Huge Axe Creator stared at Luo Feng. Luo Feng nodded. I'll do everything I can. It was a beautiful world with strange beasts flying as if showing off their feathers. Some of them left traces of fiery light, while others were gleaming. In the distance, there were shadows of strange beasts, and some showed a part of their bodies in the lakes farther away. This is the space of inheritance, Duandong River said, standing in the sky. Every generation of Duandong River received their inheritance here. All the other great beings were standing behind him. The gate was already open, which meant they didn't have a way out. However, the candidates didn't have the mental capacity to care about that, as they were all looking forward to the inheritance wholeheartedly. At the same time, they were also shocked at how the long space of inheritance had existed. It's claimed to be space of inheritance. Duandong River exclaimed. But it can absorb energies, all sorts of power including the chaos airflow in universe ocean, so that the space can maintain it stable, and so lives inside the space can prosper. The candidates were surprised by what Duandong River had said, but they accepted it quickly. They were used to it already. Even though great beings couldn't absorb chaos airflow, only miniature universes, and the original universe, could absorb chaos airflow. This rule didn't apply to the ancient civilization. Just like Universe Boat, and just like the space of inheritance, it had existed for an eternity. And now, you'll learn about the inheritance. Duandong River pointed to the distance. Look. The candidates all followed. Gleaming doors showed up on the plain, and there were pictures on the doors. One of the pictures showed a great being controlling tens of thousands of traces of golden light to attack, and there were other scenes on other pictures. The inheritors of Duandong River were great at all sorts of different skills: close combat, distant combat, weapon making. Duandong River pointed into the distance. There are 820 entrances in total, and each entrance leads to a different basic inheritance. One entrance only accepts one inheritor. Milky Way, you can choose first, and Blue Blood, you're the second, and so on and so forth. This is only the basic inheritance to test whether you're a fit for Duan Dong River. Only one of you will be the real inheritor, and he's the only one who can get the real core inheritance. Start, ordered Duan Dong River. He looked at Luo Feng. Milky Way, you start first. Yes, Master Duan Dong River. Luo Feng bowed and turned into a beam of light, approaching the 820 spaces. Numerous space entrances radiating golden lights were suspended in mid-air, side by side. There was a total of 820 of them. This is only the basic inheritance. I did not expect to find so many different kinds. Luo Feng started to take a concrete form. Suspended in mid-air, his gaze swept across the doors radiating light, as he carefully observed and tried to understand what kind of inheritance each entrance represented. The basic inheritance. This was not that important to the pulse of Duan Dong River, so it would not mean much even if it were to be passed on to outsiders. That was why it was used to conduct the final round of selection. Yet this basic inheritance, that could be passed to outsiders, because it meant little to the ancient civilization, was something extraordinary to Luo Feng and the various groups of powers in Universe Ocean. After all, this ancient civilization had been overwhelmingly powerful. The major groups can be categorized into close combat type, long-range attack type, refining true treasure type, automaton type, and miscellaneous type. Luo Feng's eyes swept through everything. For those items used to control material objects, as well as some other strange battle methods, Luo Feng classified all of them under the miscellaneous type. Close combat type, long-range attack type, and refining true treasure type was simple. And the automaton type was used to control automaton weapons. On a small scale, examples of automaton weapons could be thermal weapons that Earthlings used as firearms. On a larger scale, the entire universe boat could be considered a battleship, which was also a way of utilizing an automaton type true treasure. A battleship was an automaton type. When developed to its limit, it could be massive. The pulse of Duan Dong River had countless great beings, and some who had lived for endless years might have other interests, so leaving behind such an automaton type as basic inheritance was normal. Now it's time to choose an heir. Luo Feng carefully observed the entrance of every lighted door. Which is why I should choose what I am best at. If I were to choose something that I am unsure of, I'm afraid just going through the entrance would take me a long time. The basic inheritance is merely the appetizer. The core inheritance of the pulse of Duan Dong River is the grand banquet. Luo Feng's eyes rested on one of the space entrances radiating light rays. That space entrance had some patterns on it. On closer inspection, one could vaguely see a blurred human figure holding a blade and violently killing life forms. This, apparently, belonged to one of the close combat types, the inheritance that consisted the use of blade. This is it. Luo Feng nodded to himself. Blade. Since he was young, he had been practicing blade techniques. Thereafter, he had acquired the ghost blade. Even after he came to own Shawu wings, he continued to use blade techniques. The series of techniques consisting of golden light, fog light, and splitting gold were all considered blade techniques. Through the studies of diagrams of secret engravings, he had also created a blade technique. Throughout the entire Universe Ocean, his understanding of blades would have been rated as top-notch. Lord Duan Dong River. I have made my choice. Luo Feng turned to look afar and with reverence and said, it shall be the one behind me. Having said that, Luo Feng had made his way to stand outside the entrance of the inheritance of the blade. Behind Duan Dong River, there were over 200 great beings who instantly showed some displeasure. This was because they all wanted to choose the inheritance of the blade. Among all the universe supreme masters, the majority were engaged in close combat. Thus, the blade was definitely one of the major classes of weapons. Among the 200-odd great beings, many were skilled in the use of blades. They all wanted to choose the inheritance of the blade. It was a pity that every basic inheritance could only accept one candidate, so they had to choose something else. All right, Blue Blood, your turn to choose, Duan Dong River said. Yes, Lord Duan Dong River. Blue Blood Knight gave a slight bow. Then he transformed into a streak of light, flew toward the suspended space entrances, and started to choose what was most suitable for him. Next, Water Song. The candidates were sequenced to make their choices based on their performance during the Rhinoceros Emperor game. Toward the latter part, the remaining candidates could only grit their teeth in unhappiness at the few choices that were left for them, all of which they were unskilled in. For instance, refining true treasure type. It was highly possible that the final heir would emerge only as they finally managed to figure out an inkling of what they were dealing with. Merely a short moment later, all the 200-odd great beings had made their choices. Every one of them was suspended before their chosen space entrance. All of you shall enter to start getting in contact with the basic inheritance, Duan Dong River instructed in an aloof manner. The moment an heir emerges, the rest of the candidates will be annihilated. Understood. Over 200 great beings bowed with great respect, then turned around to fly into the space entrances that were radiating golden rays. Duan Dong River watched the group of candidates enter with a complicated expression and mumbled to himself, "Space of inheritance is finally being used again." After how long? Just how long had it been? Much too long. So long that my memory has started to blur. When all of this ends, I can also face my own annihilation, as I no longer bear any shame toward my generations of ancestors. Luo Feng flew toward the space entrance, and suddenly, there was a change in time and space. This was a chaotic world. The surroundings below were filled with a chaotic airflow, while the atmosphere above was pitch black. Only a single star hung high up, radiating light that shone upon everything beneath. Luo Feng was treading on the chaotic airflow while looking all around him. Where was the inheritance of the blade? The star right in the middle of the vast, dark sky suddenly shot out a visible light pillar that moved to envelop Luo Feng. He made no attempt to shun it away. The instant the light pillar enshrouded him, a cold, mechanical voice sounded. Core competence, activating the core competence basic inheritance. Instantly, a large quantity of information surged into Luo Feng's mind. Numerous blade manuals that were extremely detailed surged into his mind, from the understanding level for a universe knight, to gradually deepening to the profundity of the blade, to eventually reaching the level of a universe supreme master. Every blade manual was composed from a different perspective. Some were based on the golden space law, some were based on the water space law, and some were based on the earth space law. There was even a functional blade technique that was formed by combining the three most fundamental laws of gold, water, and earth. There were also some blade techniques that were formed by combining gold and time. There were all kinds of blade techniques, but without any laws, they could not be combined. A total of 360 blade manuals were transmitted into Luo Feng's mind at once, sending him into a daze. His brain seemed to slow down beneath the onslaught of information. As there was a tremendous amount of information in every manual, even if Luo Feng had his godly power and willpower to help him bear the load of the information influx, it would still take more than 2 days for complete transmission. Wow! This is simply amazing. Luo Feng was stupefied as he blinked. Within that endless time I have spent on studying Rhinoceros Emperor game, my achievement in studies of diagrams of secret engravings greatly improved. So if I want to create a combination that could qualify as a strongest technique, that should be quite easy. But if I want to create a technique at the level of a universe supreme master, that would be quite impossible. Yet these 360 sets of manuals, every one of them explained a blade technique that was at the level of a universe supreme master, and the instructions always started simple, progressing in complexity. Every manual contained a strongest blade technique that was not at all inferior to the very first axe technique that huge axe creator used. This blade manual did not just simply graze the surface level of a universe supreme master. It actually attained the limit of the highest level of a universe supreme master. Thus, it did not pale in comparison to the axe technique of huge axe creator. And a manual such as this, a total of 360 similar ones, was pure insanity. It was likely that not a single group could achieve such an accomplishment in the field of blades. Of course, these were blade techniques created by other great beings, and not what Luo Feng had created. So even if he were to master the technique, ultimately, the force he executed would never be as powerful as that executed by its creator. The ultimate technique that truly suited oneself would be one's own creation. Suddenly, the dazzling star in the dark night sky ejected 3 streams of brilliance. The 3 brilliant lights each contained a gigantic ice mountain. 3 towering icebergs could be seen falling from the stars to land within the chaotic airflow. Every ice mountain was millions of kilometers tall and clear and transparent like crystal. Within every ice mountain, vague rays would fly by from time to time like meteors. Within the 3 icebergs, countless meteor-like rays were crisscrossing one another to form a beautiful picture. This was a gem that was nurtured by nature itself. You possess the core competence, so you are able to draw references from the 360 manuals left behind by generations of great beings, said the cold, mechanical voice. You are the first chosen candidate for this round of inheritance, so you can see the 3 mountains of blades. Every mountain of blades contains the engravings of the law of blades. The law of blades contains the ultimate power and reveals everything of the ultimate secrets. Now that you can see the 3 mountains of blades, you can learn from the 360 blade manuals and try to create a brand new blade technique. When your blade technique reaches the requirements, you will become the newly appointed heir to the inheritance of the pulse of Duan Dong River. When the cold, mechanical voice finished with its instructions, silence once again prevailed. Luo Feng blinked. Mountain of Blades. Luo Feng looked at the 3 mountains of blades before him. Within the 3 towering, crystal-clear icebergs, there were countless rays resembling meteors, which were so dazzling and sparkling that the several laws that he had comprehended earlier were outshone. Every ray resembling a shooting star represented an engraving of law, and every bewitching ray contained an endless flow of mysteries. Simply unbelievable, it contains an ultimate power. Luo Feng muttered under his breath. I can feel its power. Indeed, it transcends any other law and seems to be filled with every other law possible. This was a power that transcended all the other laws. All great beings within the universe ocean had to undergo cultivation, during which they had to cultivate the path of laws. Only then could they gain the recognition of the primal universe to become universe knights and universe masters. But the engravings of this law, these beautiful engravings that took the form of meteor-like rays, were transcendent. What? Luo Feng expressed his astonishment. He had tried in vain to simulate the 3 mountains of blades for the virtual universe, but was dealt a great shock instead. It was too difficult. Within every iceberg was a great quantity of meteor-like rays. Every moment, they were changing, and the changes were non-repetitive. Simulating a stationary image at a certain moment was a tough feat. It was even tougher to simulate a moving image that was changing every moment. Unless he did not want to cultivate it further. For the moment, I can't simulate it further. Luo Feng shook his head. How about taking reference from the 360 manuals? How about viewing the mountains of blades? How about comprehending the blade techniques? Luo Feng held his breath. Since he was unable to simulate the mountains of blades for the virtual universe, he would give up on the simulation and put all his efforts into cultivation. Luo Feng's eyes drifted over to the 3 mountains of blades. Within the mountains of blades with frost-capped peaks, countless meteor-like rays were dancing. They were stunning. He could vaguely catch sight of the dancing rays of a blade as various blade techniques floated into view. Luo Feng could not withhold his shocked expression. These were, indeed, engravings of the laws of blades and definitely worthy enough to contain the ultimate power. Luo Feng was multitasking, though. While observing the mountains of blades, he was also studying the various blade manuals. Countless blade techniques flashed across his memory. He felt his heartbeats, and the countless meteor-like rays amidst the mountains of blades seemed to faintly form blades that were moving along with his heartbeats. Only upon understanding could one see the deeper secrets. These 3 mountains of blades were like 3 most ancient and powerful great masters of blades. Every blade had already reached its ultimate, but was too profound to be fathomed. Luo Feng required the support from the 360 blade manuals to gradually unveil the 3 mountains of blades. In that process, Luo Feng's internalized information on blade techniques was continuously on the rise. This video will end here.